Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Let's talk about learning a new language. You know that feeling? The first week, it's just a total whirlwind. So the big question is, how do you actually measure progress when you're starting from absolute zero? It's definitely not about fluency. It's about figuring out how to quantify that very first tiny step. Today, we're going to break down exactly how educators do that.
So this quote right here from our source material, this is basically our North Star for this whole discussion. It sets the goal perfectly. After just 1 week, the objective isn't to be a conversational wizard. No, it's about one single, really powerful act: introducing yourself. This is the very first time you get to use the language to say, hey, this is me.
And that's the real puzzle, isn't it? I mean, for the student, you feel like you've learned a ton, but also like you know nothing at all. And for the teacher, you're trying to build this solid foundation for everything that's coming next. So how do you grade a beginning? How do you even assess a foundation that's still, well, setting? Let's dive in.
Okay, so to get how it's evaluated, we first got to understand what's actually being taught. The source material points to 3 really distinct pillars that make up that whole first week, and it might not be what you think.
First up, basic vocabulary. Now this is way more than just a random list of words. It's a really carefully chosen toolkit. We're talking the absolute essentials you need for a first conversation. Hello, my name is, I am from. These aren't just words, they are the Lego bricks you're going to use to build your new identity in this language.
All right, on to the next pillar. See, you can have all the right bricks, but without mortar, you just have a pile of, well, bricks. Pronunciation is that mortar. It's what transforms words you've memorized into speech someone can actually understand. And this is absolutely critical in a tonal language like Mandarin, which our source focuses on. Get the tone a little bit wrong and you could be saying something completely different. This means pronunciation isn't some extra thing you work on later. It is a core skill from day one.
So why the super intense focus on just vocabulary and pronunciation right at the start? Well, it's a very deliberate strategy. It's all about laying a rock-solid foundation and, crucially, preventing bad habits from forming early on. But honestly, more importantly, it's about giving the student an immediate win. Just being able to say hello and have someone understand you, that is a huge confidence booster that really fuels the rest of the learning journey.
Okay, so we've got our building blocks, the vocabulary, and we've got our mortar, pronunciation. Now it's time to actually build something. And that's where the self-introduction comes in. You can think of it as the first real-world project for any language learner. And how a student gets there is really key. You don't just do an introduction. First, you get the what, the words. Then you master the how, the sounds. Then you assemble it all with some structure. And finally, the last most important step, you perform it. It's this whole multi-stage process that has to come together in a snap, all inside of that first week.
And this, right here, is the crucial point. The goal of that week 1 evaluation is not to see if you can just recite a list of words. It's to see if you can apply them. Can you take all these little pieces, put them together in real time, and actually accomplish a goal, like telling someone your name? That is a much, much higher level skill.
So we know what's being taught and we know why. But how do teachers actually measure it? Well, the source material points to 2 specific methods, and they're both designed to test that application skill we've been talking about.
Here they are, the 2 main tools for the job. On one hand, you have the short quiz. This is all about recall and accuracy. You know, can you match the right sound to the right character? Or can you write down the words for my name is? It's objective, it's pretty straightforward, and honestly, it's often a lot less stressful for students. But then you have the oral evaluation. This is where the rubber meets the road. This isn't a test of memory, it's a test of performance. The teacher isn't just listening for the right words, they're listening for something bigger. Can I understand you? Are the tones clear enough? Are the words strung together in a way that makes sense? Yeah, it can be more subjective, absolutely, but it is a way more authentic measure of whether a student can actually use the language to connect with another person. So after all of that, the vocabulary, the pronunciation practice, the quizzes, the oral exams, what does it all boil down to? It boils down to this number, 1. Can the student perform one successful communicative act? Can they introduce themselves? If the answer is yes, then that week was a success. That's really the only metric that truly matters. All right, let's zoom out for a second. This specific way of evaluating a student in their very first week, this isn't just about a Mandarin class. It actually reveals a really important shift in how we think about education and learning as a whole. This is the big takeaway. For decades, language learning was so often about just memorizing verb charts and endless vocabulary lists. But this modern approach, which you can see happening even in week 1, prioritizes what you can do with the language. It's a huge shift from knowledge to skill, from theory to actual practice.
And that brings us to one last super important point from the source text. The whole purpose of this evaluation isn't just to stamp a grade on a student's forehead. It's to provide feedback. The assessment itself becomes a learning tool. It's designed to guide the student, to catch those little mistakes early, and to set them up for success in week 2 and everything that comes after.
So, we're left with this question, right? This model for a week 1 Mandarin class gives us a great template, but the challenge is really there in every field of learning. How do we design ways to test people that look past simple memorization and get to the real heart of a skill? How do we measure not just what somebody knows, but what they can actually go out and do with that knowledge?